This is a pretty good looking card, right? Wrong. We need more animation, we need JavaScript, and we need glow effects. Ah, yes, that's much better. Let me show you how to build this in Bricks. This video comes directly from the Hyperplexed YouTube channel where he shows how to do this with HTML and JavaScript. I'm just simply showing you how to translate that into Bricks Builder with some minor tweaks. But if you don't follow Hyperplexed already, go follow. He makes amazing content, breaks everything down. I watch every single one of his videos, so trust me, go follow him. And without further ado, let's get into it. First things first, we need to add the cards onto the page. So let's go ahead and add in a section. And on the container of the section, we're going to go ahead and call this my card grid. Then let's go ahead and give this a new ID because we're going to need this later. So let's rename the ID to card grid. And I'm going to use automatic CSS. So let's give this a grid 3. That should set it up. Perfect. We're good there. Let's add a card in here. So let's add a new block inside. We'll just rename this to card. And we need to make sure that this is semantic. So we're going to go to our card grid and change this to an unordered list. That's going to add some gap here. So let's give this a class of list none from automatic CSS. And then we want to change the card to an li. And now everything is good to go. Now, in order for this effect to work and to take place, we need to add one more div inside that holds all of our content. So I'm going to add one more. This will be our content. And now we can put everything that we need into this div. So what do we have? I'm gonna go back to the design. I have an icon and a heading and a text. So let's add those in. So we'll do SVG, a heading, and some text. Now most people would call this done. However, we need to change this a little bit in order to make it semantic. I want the heading to be the very first item. And then with CSS, we can flip and rearrange the orders of them to visually make it look right. But we want the heading to be first. And what I'm gonna do here, so I'm gonna go to my content. I'm gonna add one more in. So let's add one more block or div, and we will call this text content. I'm gonna move this up, actually to the very top. We're gonna move our heading into this and our text into this. So that way our heading, we'll move this up, is the very first item in the card, and then we can rearrange it how we need to. So let's go ahead and give these classes, and then we can do that. So let's go to our card. I'm gonna use automatic CSS's tool to give it classes. We got content, text, content, heading. I just want this to be text, and I want this to be icon. Apply classes. Perfect. Let's give this an icon. And let's rearrange it. We're gonna do style, layout, order, -1, and that's going to send it to the very top visually. Let's go ahead and duplicate these cards. So 1, 2, I got 3 cards here. And with the power of editing, I'm going to throw in all my content. All my content is in. Let's start styling this a little bit. Let's go and give the icon some color and some size. So let's go to my icon here. I'm going to close down these other cards. Let's go to the icon and let's give this a height of something like 2.4 rem. And we'll go ahead and give this a stroke color of my white color, which is going to be base for me. So there's my white, and I want to space these out. So let's see here. I need to add some gapping in the content here between the text content and the icon. So let's do space small. So there's my gap here, but there's no gap between these ones. So I'm going to go to my text content, and I'm going to give this a gap of inherit. So it's going to inherit the same gap from its parent content to keep everything equal. Let's go ahead and give the cards a background color, and the background is not going to be on the card itself. It's actually going to be on the content. The card is going to act like a border, and I'll show you that in just a minute. So let's go to the content and let's add a background to this. So we're going to go here to my background, and we're going to go ahead and give this a color of neutral ultra dark. Neutral ultra dark. Yep, it's just a very light color here. This is also where I want to add some padding into the content, not the card, into the content. So add some padding here. We'll go layout, padding. Let's do space M, and let's pair all of them together. There we go. Now we have some padding on this. Now, if we go back to my design, I also have a border. It's a very slight border here that I need to add in. So what we're going to do here is, in order to make that border effect, we're not going to add an actual border. We're going to go to my card, and we're going to add in some padding. Now, I could just go in here and go 2 pixels and add that padding here. But what we need to do instead is actually create a local variable for myself that I can use later, and I'll show you why. So let's go into CSS, Let's type in root. I want to create a variable for this specific card, and I'm going to call this border. We'll give this 2 pixels. And I'm going to reference that border again. So we're going to go up here, layout, and we're going to type in the variable border. Let's link those. And let's go ahead and give this a background color that's going to act like our border color. And this will be neutral dark. So you can see it now. I have a border going on there. It looks like a border. It's not actually a border, but it looks like one. Let's go ahead and add a border radius. And how we would typically do this is go to the card. We'll go border, and I'm going to give this a radius of M. We'll link all those. So we see it has on the outside, it has one, but we need to give one to the inner content. And how we can easily do that is we can go inherit. So it'll inherit the border from the parent. Okay, there's one problem with this. So let's go save. I'm going to refresh here. If I zoom in, it looks okay. There's just a small little detail that I want to fix. I don't like seeing this. You guys can see here, this is smaller than this here. Almost like it looks like the radius gets bigger here, right? So we need to fix that. I want to fix that, and I'm going to show you how. So what we're going to do here is instead of doing that method, I'm going to go to my card. I'm going to go to the CSS. I'm going to add one more variable. We're going to call this border radius. I want this to be var radius M, and we can reference this in my card now. So I want my card, I actually want my content. So not the card itself. I want my content to have the border radius. So var border radius. Let's link all those. Now I want my card to have a calculation, and this calculation is going to be the border radius plus border width. So we're going to go border. Let's remove all these so they don't affect it. We're going to do a calc. We're going to do the border radius. So var border radius plus var border. So the border width. We're going to close that off, and then we're going to sync those. Let's save it, and let's view this again. We'll refresh. Now we have even border radius on this. It looks perfect. Okay, it is, that calculation is the external border radius is equal to the internal border radius plus the border width. So I'll actually leave a link down in the description of a reference guide of how to calculate that, just so if you guys ever have this issue, you know exactly where to find it. Our cards are looking really good, but we don't have glow effects yet, right? There's nothing happening. So let's look at our reference here. And if we notice, there's a couple things going on. There's a border glow that's happening, and then there's the internal glow that's happening. So we need to manage those two different items. Let's do our very first glow effect, and that's going to be the border glow. So let's go to our card here, and we want this glow to be an absolute positioned item, and that's going to be relative to the card. So we need to change this card to layout, position, relative. And then we're going to go to the card's CSS area. Let's put in root here, and we're going to add a pseudo element of after. Let's close this off, and let's add this here. Content, it's going to have nothing. Let's add a height of 100% and a width of 100%. And then we want this to be position absolute. And then we want this to be top of 0 and left of 0. So it's absolutely positioned to the top left. Now we need to add in the radial gradient on the background. So what we need to type in is background. We're going to do radial gradient, parentheses. Let's go in here. Let's actually close this off. Let's go in, and let's add a size here. So we'll do 600 pixels, circle at, we can say at the 20 pixel for now. So top left, 20 pixels, 20 pixels. Let's go ahead and give this a comma. We need to go ahead and give this a color. So we'll do white, and we want this to go from white to transparent at about 40%. Now we can see already this doesn't look right. This isn't what it's supposed to look like. And we can also see that it's going outside of the box because we don't have overflow hidden. So let's go back to the card. Let's go layout, and let's find overflow here and type in hidden. Okay, now that's hidden on the corner radius. But we also need this to follow the mouse. So let's change that. We want this to follow the mouse. How we're going to do that is right now it's positioned to 20 pixels, 20 pixels. but we need this to follow the mouse where it is. So we're going to give this a variable of var mouse x. So the x axis of my mouse, and we're going to give this other one a var mouse y. So that's going to be the y position of my mouse, but nothing's happening, right? It disappeared because it doesn't have a reference of where to be. So we need to give it that reference. Let's go ahead and add in my card grid. You can add this within the page. You can add this within a snippet manager or anywhere you want to add the JavaScript. But I'm going to go ahead and just in my card, let's add in my section. Let's add in a code block for the sake of this tutorial. Let's add in my script, which I will put in the description down below for you guys. And what this is going to do is this is going to say, look, find my element ID, so card grid, find my card grid and look for mouse movement within that card grid. And then look for the elements inside. This is looking for featured card. Our class for our cards is just card. So we're going to change that to card. Find those cards and then apply the X and Y axis to the mouse, the variable mouse X and the variable mouse Y. And it's doing that in pixels. So it's going to look for any movement inside of the grid, not the cards, but apply it within the cards themselves, basically. So we're going to go ahead and update this, execute, render without wrapper, save it, and let's check out the front end now. Let's see what's happening. Perfect. Look at that. Now we have something happening here, right? It looks like it's a glowing effect that's following my mouse, but that's not exactly what we want, right? We want this to fade in. If I look at my reference, it fades in and also needs to hide. So if I look at my DOM right now, let's check this out. I have an after element that's on the same, that is a child of the card. It's on the same plane as the card content, but I want my card content to be on top. So what we need to do is we're going to make our card. We'll go style, layout. We want a z index of 0. I'm just going to set it as a base. This is my 0. My content needs to have a z index of 2. I want this to be on top of my glow. We'll go back to my card, go to the CSS, and we'll add in a z index of 1. So this is going to be below the card content. So we'll save again, refresh, and now look at that. We have a border glow. But here's the thing. How this is showing up, right? But we want it to only show when we're close by. So let's change it to where when we hover over the grid, the opacity changes for that glow, right? We don't want the card. We want the grid. We want nearby. So we're going to do this. We're going to go back to my card and we're going to say when we are on .card grid, or card grid. And when we hover over it, we want to change the .card after to an opacity of 1. Okay. So when we hover over the grid, change the opacity of that after effect to 1. So what we need to do now is set the original opacity to 0. We'll refresh here. Now watch as we go in, now it pops in, right? We don't want it to pop in. We want it to smoothly come in. So let's add a transition. We'll say transition opacity by 500 milliseconds. And now when we're on the card grid, now it comes in smoothly, right? Look at that. That looks really good. We can also affect this by saying, well, maybe we want more space on our card grid. So I can be up here and it still affects it. So let's add in some padding to our grid. So I'm gonna go to my section here. I'm just gonna go ahead and remove. Let's unset the padding here on these. Let's go to my card grid and let's add in some padding here. Padding of, let's say, space M, and we'll do space M down here as well, just to give it a little bit of breathing room so that I can be out here and then those also take effect. Perfect. Now I want to make some slight adjustments to make this more maintainable for the future. And so what are some things that I might want to change, right? I might want to change the opacity of the card, of the glow on the outside. I might want to change the size of the glow on the outside, the color. Let's add some variables to this. So let's go to the card and let's go to the CSS here. I want to add some variables. So I want to add in border glow size. And right now the border glow size is set to 600 pixels. So let's just go ahead and 600 pixels. I'm going to go ahead and reference this variable here. So we'll go into the 600 pixels. We'll go var. Let's close it and paste that in. I also want the color. So let's do border glow color. We can change this to white. And then let's reference this here. var border color, border glow color. And then I also want to reference the opacity of it. So we're going to go here. Let's do border glow opacity. And we will set this to, let's say something like 0.5 opacity. And we're going to put this down into the opacity when we're on hover. So down here, when we hover over the grid, let's change this opacity to var border glow opacity. So now I can change these. So let's go save. Let's refresh. And I want this, it looks a little bit better, but it's still too bright. So let's change this to something like 0.2. Let's refresh. That's looking better. It's not too much. It's very subtle and it's following the mouse here. We could even make it bigger if I wanted to. So let's make this, or smaller, doesn't matter. Let's make this like 900 pixels. So we'll go the border glow size, 900 pixels. Let's refresh. And look at that, almost takes up like half the card. I really love that. It looks really cool. So let's leave it like that. I like it big. It's kind of showing. I might just a little bit smaller. Let's go 800. There we go. I like that a lot. Now that we have our border glow out of the way, let's do the glow over the card. And this one is going to exist on the content itself. So not the card, but the content. So let's go ahead and go to our CSS here. And our card glow is going to be very similar to our border glow. So what I want to do here is affect this to be on both, right? So let's say I want this to be on my card, my border glow and my card glow. So card content after. So my card glow, right? This is going to be on my content here. I want these both to have a content of nothing, the height, the absolute position. The only thing that's going to change is my background, right? My radial gradient. So we're going to pull this out and put it in its own. So we'll go down here, we'll do root, and we'll do after. Let's close that off and let's take this background out and let's put it in here, right? So there's my border glow and let's grab one more. Let's do our card glow. So card content after, and let's give that one a background. So we're going to grab all this and we'll just copy this here as well. But we're going to make some changes. We want to change the size of the card glow itself to be something different. We want to change it to all be separate, right? So up here we have border glow size, border glow color, border glow opacity. Let's grab all of those. Let's paste those down below and let's do card glow size, card glow color, and card glow opacity. And let's go back down here to our card content after and update these. So card glow size, card glow color, and we're going to have card glow gradient. So these are going to be a little bit different. Right now, let's see what's happening. Let's go refresh. Nothing's happening at the moment. That's because we haven't told it. Right now it's at an opacity of 0. We need to tell it to come in. Now with the border glow, it's when we hover over the grid, right? We want the card glows to come in when we hover over the card. So let's go back into our CSS. Here's our glow for our border. We want to say when we hover over .card, find the .card content after and give it an opacity of var card glow opacity. And let's close this off. Let's refresh and look at that. We have a glow effect going on. And it's following my mouse. It's from that X and Y positioning that we're taking from the entire grid positioning. So look at that. Now we got something working. However, I don't like the way that it is. It's so bright. So let's change it just a wee bit. So let's go to our card glow opacity. Let's change this to something like 0.1. That's looking better, but it's still a little bright. So let's go ahead and change that to 0.5. I like that a lot more. Very subtle on the inside, but it has the border glow effect. And look at that, guys. We have made a glowing card, right? And what's really cool about this is because you've done locally scoped variables, let's say we want this second card to be like Christmas themed with red and green glows for whatever reason. We can do that. We can go here, go to our second card. Let's go to the ID and we'll go root. Let's open that up and we have a border glow color. Let's set that to green. Okay, and we have a card glow color. And let's set that to red. Let's close it. Let's save. And let's check out the front end. Look at that. Green with a red glow. It looks really dumb, but right, you can see that we can make changes to this. Maybe I just want it to be red, right? I want this to just have a red color. And now we have a red card. So we have a white card here, red card. We can make a blue card, or you can do whatever you want. You can make any colors you want, change the sizing effects per card. You can make those adjustments because you've done locally scoped variables.